I want to welcome you to my channel, Scrapcraft and Stitchery today. My name is Christina. I am going to complete putting together this journal today. I started it yesterday. I decided, and that recording can be found in a playlist connected to this, but basically I made these very interesting signatures for this book. A little bit messy. Really love this. These are really creative and interesting signatures that we're going to put in this book. I'm going to do a hidden spine, so I'll sew these using a pamphlet stitch onto this spine and then glue the whole thing inside our book. And this is the cover. So we're going to sew that together, and then we're going to attach it into the book. And what I want to do is I covered the outside of this book, and it's super dry now. Just using some packing paper, and I'm going to cover the inside of this book first to allow the glue to set. And I wanted to include a closure on this book, and I don't usually do this on my journals. They can always be tied shut with ribbon and stuff later, but I think is what I'm going to do for this book, since I haven't glued the inside cover on, and I'm gonna have to go find something fairly sturdy, but I want to glue this. This is a piece of, like, I bought a pack of sari silk, and I think I probably bought that on Amazon, but you can find it in different places, and it's just a mixed pack, and you kind of get what you get, and this was part of this. So I'm going to use this piece and probably cut it in half, and I'm going to leave these really long. So if you have this attached to the front and the back, and there'll be two pieces, and they can kind of be wrapped around this book a couple times and tied off, and I think that that's going to look really cool as part of this. So I'm going to attach this. I'm almost thinking right now, in order to get a really strong to have this be really strong, I might, trying to decide how exactly I want to do this, I might just punch a hole through here and then tie that in so it's going through the cover and it'll come out on the outside. I think that is probably the best way to do this. I'm gonna have to think of a way to punch a hole in this that's gonna work. And I'm trying to think, my crocodile, I have not seen that, and I don't know where it's at, and I really need to clean and organize my space so I can find all my tools and know where everything's at right now, because everything's gotten really disorganized. Okay, but let's figure this out. Could probably cut a hole with just like the box cutter, maybe. That's not going to be a very good idea, I don't think. Let me see. What else can we do? I was thinking briefly too that I might be able to sew through this, but this box, I don't know how my sewing machine's going to do. I feel like I'd probably break my needle more than anything else trying to do that. So what are we going to do? Maybe we'll just take the awl and do it. That seems like it's good idea as anything else that we've thought about, so let's try that and see how that goes for us. See if I can get a big enough hole going on here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. We know we have 9. I'm going to measure this a little bit, so, and then kind of play it by eyeball. It's going to be right here. Let's put it in far enough. It's not going to be too close, and I think this is a good time to do this because we haven't decorated this cover yet. We might be able to get that through there. Okay, maybe. We shall see. This might be excuse me. I've been digging around in the attic trying to find exactly what I wanted to use for this. Okay. Well, that's not an insignificant hole there. Okay. Let's see if we can actually thread this rather chunky ribbon through these little bitty tiny holes. You could use an eyelet for this as well. I want to give it a very nice finished look. You know, actually, what do you think about this idea right here? What if we did it this way and then just tied a big knot on the end, and I'm gonna call this an unhidden construction type of an idea. Instead of gluing this down on the inside, I kind of like this. You can cut a little bit of this off. But I kind of like that idea. I think that's kind of cool. Okay. Call me crazy, but I think that's how that's gonna go. And so now I'm gonna just cut this in half. Great. So I have that end. And then I'm going to do this other end, and we're going to have the ability to do this great big tie, and I'm going to leave this so there's kind of a lot of this here. Let's see if that can kind of help me stuff that through that hole. I just need it to go through. Okay. And then see if we can tie this one a little bit closer to the end. There we go. That's nice. And leave that there like that. What do you think? What do you think? There we go. So now we have a ribbon going through both ends of this book, and then you can just wrap it around. And tie a big bow on it. Just like that, and you have a closure for your book. Okay, that's kind of cool. There are fancier ways to attach these, but I kind of think this is what is speaking to me, and I'm going to call this a kind of see how it was made kind of a closure. Let's put my awl away. I always lose the awl, and I'm always looking and searching for that thing. So I always try and put it away too, and I say this a lot. This would be kind of pretty, I think, and we don't really need this. This would be cool for this. I just found this. I don't think we're going to use it today. and that's okay. It must be time to make a video because I am getting a scam likely call. So, for covering the inside of this, and we might want to put something down over this so that there's something kind of helping this to stay in place so it doesn't rip through whatever we're using, because I'm almost thinking about using this paper again, and I just fear that that's not going to be quite enough. I have this other paper which is not super thick. I might go find some cardstock that I think will go with this and put that in the inside of this, because I am now concerned about these closures kind of ripping through whatever, so I want them kind of sturdy. So I don't necessarily want to use anything that's too flimsy in there to do this. And the other thing I can do is just put down a piece of cardstock or something over the top of these to kind of keep it in place. Yes. Because there's going to be a bit of like where that is going to pull up on whatever cover, because we're going to cover over this. Unless maybe we should have poked this through after we put that on there. Maybe. Okay. New plan. As I'm thinking this through, I think that maybe there's a place where this is sewn together and it is not going to go through that little tiny hole. I'm going to take these back out, and what I'm going to do is, rather than trying to cover that up, which is frequently how books are made, right? I'm going to actually go through that inside cover again where that is. So I'll put down the cover, the inside cover, and then I'm going to put this through that as well, just so that it's coming out of there. And that's because I'm afraid if I cover this with something, then that's going to be constantly pulling on that. It's going to rip it up anyway. And I think this is going to be a better idea. And I just got an idea. I have some old book pages, and I think I'm going to use old book pages on the inside of here to cover this. And I might do it in a way where it's kind of, well, we'll see what happens. Let's just wait and see. Wait and see. We might collage them on. Although I think if we collage them, it'd be better to put it on a separate piece of paper. Let's just look at this. I like this. Let's just see. Ooh, this kind of bibliography kind of thing that will fit right in there. And I think I'm just going to do a couple of these and call that done. Once we get rolling around here, we're rolling. Before we get rolling, it might be, you know, that's another story. I'll have to cut this down just a bit. I'm trying to decide if I want to cover this, and I think that I'm going to skip that, because if we get it far enough over, then this hidden spine will go here, and that's going to work. Okay. Great. You can use anything you really want to do this. I am going to kind of cover this. I'm just kind of marking this, folding this over where I want it to be, where I want to cut this. I'm going to cut that off so that'll fit in there, and it'll come over where this crease is. Kind of think I might want to switch these. I kind of like having this torn edge on the edge. And I can make these the same size so they match, hopefully, at the end of the day, so that they match. I kind of picked this as kind of a sciencey book with sciencey kind of references, and I like that because we used all this graph paper and these fun science notebooks, and we'll kind of call this a nature book. And I think all these things are kind of tying in to make a little bit of a theme, not too much, not too themey. It's kind of a little all over the place, but also I'm going to call it a theme. I'm going to call it a nature and science theme with our junk journal today. All right. We're going to get this exactly the way that I want it, which makes me happy. Okay. That will go well. That will go well. I'm super excited about this. Great. Let's glue those down and worry about maybe decorating this. I have, you guys have probably, if you've watched my channel, seen these. I don't have a lot of things on my channel right at the moment. I will someday. I might take these and use these to help decorate the front of this, and along with, I think, some of these scraps from yesterday. This is gonna be fun. Okay, we're finally to the fun part where we get to decorate and not just do a lot of construction. Not that the construction and putting this whole book together is super fun. All right, I have this artist palette. Got this at the dollar store. I'm gonna use this for gluing so I don't get glue everywhere today. Because that was, as if you remember, that was yesterday. We had glue everywhere. Yep. Okay. These can go into the scrap heap for using later. We have a lot of scrap things that can be used for later, and we'll pull those things out here later this week and maybe try and use up some of our fun scraps. This is why junk journalers have, scrappy Saturdays. It's because they've been doing this all week, and at some point you just have a big pile of scraps that need a home. Okay. The more you do it, the happier you're going to be with your scrap pile. I like that a lot. It looks like, hey, this is a book. Not maybe what we were expecting. I'm going to work that down. It's cool. You can see that. Just trying to get this stuck down enough that I'm happy with it, right? Let's leave this here. I'm looking at it to see where the glue is at, I guess. every time I see this book, it's a book that was, has lived out its professional life. It's kind of an old one. Stuff has moved on past where this book, but it's still so interesting. And I'm sure there's still a lot of really good information, and I should have read it as a microbiology book. But I saw my friends on there, Proteus mirabilis. I have done a fair amount of microbiology in my life. Just saying. It's talking about polyliposaccharides. Anyway, here you go. We're giving this a new life. Don't worry, guys. This was like headed for the trash. Nobody wanted this book because, you know, the internet. Except for me. I was like, I know exactly what I will do with that book. I'm going to turn it into a new journal. Here we go. And again, I want to work this down into here, and I don't like that that's coming up because that's where, so now I'm just going to work this. That's going to need definitely a bit more glue where this is really needs to stick down here, because this is what's going to be, I mean, stuck down. This is going to be layered on to hold our spine on. I really kind of want to use this glue to get this paper, these two papers to really bind strongly together and kind of become one thing, right? One thing. And that's going to happen. Okay. Inside here, with enough glue, with enough patience, this will happen for us. Okay. But I do not want all my signatures to just, you know, fall on out of here. And this is a place, I mean, like right here on these creases is where this is going to get a lot of wear and tear as this journal is used. The working part of this. Okay. So then this will go on there. It's going to kind of cover up those edges. That is not super even. I didn't do a good job. Well, it's kind of more even on the bottom. I don't understand. Well, that's okay. We're not going to worry about that too much. It's not perfect, and that is, you know, that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Sometimes things have to be super, super perfect, and sometimes they don't. And appreciating the differences in those times allows us to just celebrate and have a happy life, I think. Okay, so I'm going to poke these holes back through, and then that's where those are going to go through, and we'll be able to see this. But also, I am going to go ahead and decorate the outside of this book. So this is a very similar book. I did do this before I covered the book. I put this stuff down, and this one I'm doing the opposite. I'm going to cover this book after. The one of the things I really like is I like having this covering the spine of this. I might do it the opposite way so that when I stick other collage pieces down, they can cover the spine, but I do like having the spine just kind of designated as the spine. You don't have to do that. Obviously, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. It's your book. I'm going to do what I like to do. And so I'm probably going to put something over this, and this one's going to be different, right? This one, you can see the spine, how it's bound onto there. And that's what I usually do, but I'm doing a hidden spine this time. Sorry, my mind keeps wandering off as I'm thinking about what can I grab to put on here. And I was thinking about these lily pads earlier, and I think that they'll go really pretty with the string we have. It's got the colors and the book ink, and we can put some of that on there and really kind of start to tie all these things together. These are digital prints that I made. They're on my Etsy shop. See the link below if you really like these and want to buy these. They will be on my Etsy shop. They're not yet. I've also used these in a different thing. I'm still kind of playing with the format and the images that I'm going to put on there. And probably what I'm going to do is just do a kind of a collage of these, whatever kind of strikes my fancy. So I'm just going to tear these out using a ruler. You could cut them out with a thing. I printed these just on my printer. And these are just on regular copy paper. Do it the easy way. Easy way. It's easier if you have a bigger piece to hold on to. Tearing paper is very fun. What do you think of these images? So I generated these using an AI generator because I don't want to fall too far behind, you know? I will try to put a mix of digitals on my website. I'll be very forthright about what was generated by AI and what wasn't. These I also kind of use some photo editing software to change the appearance of these as well, of these images. I think it's kind of great. These ones came out pretty nicely, honestly. I'm pretty happy with them. Sometimes AI does some crazy looking stuff, but these I really liked. Feel free to let me know your thoughts on this whole world we're living in, because it is changing faster and faster every day. And that is part of the joy of being a human in this world that we're living in, right? Here's how I think about it, is that, you know, for a long, long time, we just kind of we were hunter-gatherers, and then we were, you know, farmers for eons, and then we start moving into cities, and all of these changes happened relatively slowly. And today we are living in a world where we just are becoming more and more dependent on computers. And I think my idea is that should make our lives easier and allow us to create more things. That is kind of my take on this, is let the computers help. Maybe. Let them make our lives easier. Oh, you know what? I want to do this so I can get this off. It would be nice to have a clear ruler, and I probably have one around here somewhere so I can see the edge of these better, but also fun. It is another lovely day today. Here in the middle of the week. I think it's supposed to rain again. But I think that's going to be really bad. We're going to get pummeled because the ground is already still so wet from like last week. And there was so much flooding. Hopefully it doesn't rain too much. We've also been out dog sitting. So we haven't been home. I'm just coming home during the day to kind of take care of our house. We go out there and dog sit in the evenings. And I've only really been home this week for a couple of hours. And I have been using those hours to get a little bit of crafting in, which has been wonderful because this is not usually a thing that I've had time to do. So now I'm going to decide. I do want to use some book pages. I really want some text on this, and I might go back to that same book and try and see if I can find some things. I might use a different book, but I really do kind of want some text because I think it will add some interest here. I have some dictionary pages. Come here, dictionary pages. These are slouchily, is this? And smiter. Smiter? Didn't even know that was a word. How do they choose which word is up here? Because the last word is smite. That I can believe. Smote, smitten, or smit. Smiting. It does say smiter. Smiter. Okay. I apologize. I get super excited. You can have like snob right on the front of your book. Ooh, I do like snapshot. I'm just gonna pull some of this off. I think that this, I don't know how much of this book I have in this box over here. I might have to go searching, and I don't really want to go searching. I am just going to collage happily across this entire book. That I think is really what I wanted to do with this, is just put down some pieces and some artwork and there's a picture of a snare drum on here, which has nothing to do with this. Except I like it, and I might put that right there because I think that that would be kind of cool. You have like printed spines of books, and that kind of sitting there looks kind of like one of those gold imprints to me. I'll have a little bit of a just call back to that. I think, and I'm just going to scatter some things around here. More scraps. Always making scraps. I think I want one more piece, only because why the heck not? Just a little piece of this. Maybe put it here, and I think that that'll be more than enough of that. And then I'm gonna lay down. I have just some little pieces of this, and this is inside. We made these into pages on the inside, and I'm just going to bring a little bit of this in there. Just bits and pieces. I think it'll give it a little bit of visual interest. I am going to probably get out some when I start. And I also want the book page, this paper bag, to like show through on this, for sure. Definitely want that. And then I'm gonna just put some of these images down on top and kind of put them down. And as I was saying, I want ones that look kind of the same. I might just do 3. I might do 4. Maybe do 4. I'm gonna probably stick this down with some let's see what I have in my matte medium will work. Again, this is gonna get really wet if I use that. That's gesso. We don't really want that. Crackle paste. Ooh, this is not. I feel like it's closed very tight. Crackle paste. That'd be fun to play with. I don't think this is the right project. Oh, it's fine. It's never even been opened. Can't be that fun. I do have some decoupage. This is kind of old and probably pretty, let's see what else we might have. Glass, medium, and varnish. Ooh, this is what I want. Ooh, the lid fell off of this. This is, I think, what I'm going to use. While the lid may have fallen off, I can still hear it sloshing around in there, so we're going to go with this. This will give it a super, like, satiny texture if it's gloss. I'm sniffing the paint here. See if I can find a brush that will fit down in this bottle. If I had something handy, I could pour it out, but I'm not going to. We'll see how this goes. Are you excited? Are you excited as I am? All right. Let's do a little bit of collage. I'm going to put this, whether or not, and this should stick this down nicely. And I'm going to go right up to the edge on these and just put it down underneath and then put it back over the top and use that to hold this down. It'll kind of help those like layers stick together really nicely. You could do this with decoupage, you could do this with glue, you could use your, you could just put this down with your, like if all you had is a glue stick, you could try it with a glue stick. Because this is a cover, I am concerned that I want this to stick down, you know, pretty tightly so that it's not going to get caught on something and ripped off. So I like doing this because this is going to really help these pieces become one consistent piece and help them to not stand up to any kind of wear and tear that you're going to have on your cover as it's going through its life and being stuck into a bookcase or carried around in a bag or, you know, all of these things. I'm just kind of putting these things down all willy-nilly, however it pleases me. And like I said, I want to cover this whole, this is going to change the finish and the feel of this cover. So even in places where I'm not going to want to cover this whole thing today, and you might on a different project, I certainly might try and put more things down to cover like the entire surface. I certainly really do that. when I do collage, I generally put stuff over the entire surface, but I'm not doing that today because I really like these paper, this brown paper book cover. I'm kind of going for a feeling like back when I was in school, I had my textbooks covered in brown paper, and I just kind of want to feel that way when I see this. And I'm just going to keep layering things on here wherever I think they look best. So I'll put a little more glue down there. This is kind of wet. It's kind of making this crinkly, and that's a little bit at an angle. And that is, I guess, what I intended to do. That's not what I intended to do, but that's how it is. And so since that one's kind of at an angle, I'm going to go ahead and put one over here. You can see where I did not stick this down to the cover all of the way, which again, I'm kind of a little concerned about that, but I guess it'll be just fine. And that has something to do with the fact that I am putting down a lot of this. And I think that this is kind of one of my more favorite finishes on books, just because using this particular product gives like a really cool feeling to these things. So that's actually going to wind up being the back of this. And there is nothing better than to have a book that's just like really fun to touch, you know? Having a journal that you just kind of like to touch the outside. I do think that a huge part of why junk journaling is appealing is because there's so many different like ways that this engages your senses. It's not just like for looking at, but it's also the way that it feels. And it's kind of like, I like to make my books almost like with lots of pockets and tucks, and it's this just really sensory feeling. You could actually put things in there that like maybe tea bags or something that like smell really nice. That would be really nice too. You can get like this great all around sensory playground for you to play with and just kind of get lost in. And I think that's just one of the best things about this, honestly. This is coming along, and I think it's going to look really nice, and I might come back and paint some a little bit on the edges of this to kind of bring in some white or something, or cream color, or I don't know, maybe purple. You have some purple in these. Lily pads. That could go. I was really hesitant to work with purple. Let's see how much of this we have left in our brush we put on here. Is that going to get it wet enough? Well, it's going to get it wet enough that it's not going to bubble up too much while it's going to allow me to stick this down. And this is sticking really well. I think it's getting into like creases and the like that are on this bag to begin with. Because like I said, I did not flatten this bag out as much as I maybe did with the other bag that I used on the other journal that I've shown. I'm just going to stick that down and see if there's enough underneath there to get this to stick. All right, work that through. What I was thinking is it might be cool to find something to fill in like this area. And I guess I should put down a little bit more of this maybe. There are some spots. There are some spots that look a little more barren than I really want. Using all these words, they're not really making message. Put this here. A glob of glue there. Let's just put that down there and cover it up. So I was thinking maybe a picture here. I was gonna kind of tear something out, but you know what? I'm just gonna put it here. I think this is maybe still wet enough. The only problem is right here. It's gonna be right in the binding where, remember, this is going to bend a lot. We want this to be worked in and really adhered, or it's not gonna stick down. Gonna stretch, then when it comes back I want it to wrinkle with that. Is exactly what I want you to do. Alright, I'm a little bit concerned that it's maybe tearing right here. So I'm going to put a piece of very brittle paper over it. There, that's going to fix that. Okay. What do you guys think? I kind of like it this way. Not so sure I'm going to like it when I think that looks good as a cover. This will be the cover now. We have made sure of that this is the front. And again, you can come back and add a little bit of color around this once this dries. Just to kind of, I like borders, I really do. Kind of makes things look finished to me. So I might put a little bit of white around the edges. Just and I kind of want to do that now. Let me go clean out this brush. I will be right back. All right, I'm back. The good thing about this is this is probably dry. Ooh. I think this looks better in person than it does on the screen. I'm looking at it. It feels great. It's kind of shiny and like feels really cool. I really like the way this feels with that on there. I do think that to kind of blend this in, I'm going to go ahead and paint around the edges of this. I think that'll be kind of fun. I might add some more white paint or something to this. And I was thinking as I was looking at this, I might add some gold paint too. So I might add some white paint to kind of brighten this up. And then I might add a little bit of like So just some white paint, and then maybe add some gold to make this a little bit more fun. But I want to brighten it up with just some white paint, and I think I'm just going to add this around the edges. And I'm going to just use my fingers to do this today. And just maybe see how this goes. Give it a little bit of a border because I'm kind of crazy about having borders on things. Just move that in, and I kind of feel like maybe some gold splatter might be kind of fun. You can use ink for this. Doesn't really matter if it's even. This is a junk type journal, right? This will give this a little bit of I have made a mess of myself. Look at me go. I was thinking this is going to lighten this up a little bit. I feel like usually people are saying, oh, push this back with some paint. This is great. I haven't had time to do a lot of work on my journals lately. And right now my life is just kind of in a place where I have more time and to do things like finger painting, and it is pretty wonderful. I highly recommend it. Gotta use your time where you find it. See if I can get myself. We're gonna have to put some more glue on that inside binding before we put this other thing down. I'm pretty happy that I've gotten to come in here and do this today. Finish this up and hopefully get this video posted for you. I'm just kind of doing it how I feel. You could certainly use a paintbrush if you don't want to get your fingers as dirty as I am. Look at me, covered in paint. I have to say I'm never happier than when I'm like, hey look, I've been painting. There goes my nail polish, because that does not probably come off there. Just kind of come back over these bumps a little bit. In here, around here, catch that where we can. And I think, like I was saying, I think some gold on here would also just kind of make this a little bit fancier. How is that? I think that looks pretty fantastic. Okay, this is looking better. Did I get paint on my thing? That's okay by me. It'll be fine. Eventually I might have to buy a new one if I get too much paint on here. I think I kind of maybe want to do a splatter on this as well. When we need to do that. How about this? This will work. We're going to do a couple different techniques here because we can. So I just sprayed some water on here. This is kind of a waxy kind of a paper. And I'm going to put a little bit of water in there. And then I'm going to get a brush. And I should put something down underneath here. How about some more packing paper so we don't have a more controlled mess while we're doing this very messy thing. Hopefully I've gotten that. What kind of a brush that'll pick up some of this? And I'm just going to mix this white in with some water, and I'm going to do some splattering around the top of this. So I just want to pick up some of this, and I'm just going to splatter this on. make it look a little more fun. Yeah? I'm just going to splatter this on to kind of lighten up where this paper bag is. It's a little bit dark. It's a little bit... you could go back over the top of this, and I'll decide if I want to do this once this is dry. I could go back over the top of this with the varnish again and kind of like set that all in. Okay. Could decide if you want to do some black. You can certainly do that as well. Just gonna paint that out. And now that this is super wet, you could, like where I splattered a lot right there on that, you could come back and pick some of that up. It'll definitely pick up off this varnish. This is going to be a really interesting texture because it's got this like kind of chalky, I used this craft paint, will get this kind of a chalky feel, but it's also going to be like mixed with this really smooth varnish feel. And I think it's going to be really cool to touch this. I am going to let this dry, so I'm going to set this aside and leave it kind of flat. I like that. I like that a lot. And this is kind of just the thing. You want to really I felt like that was dark and I wasn't super happy with it, and now that I've kind of lightened up the edges and stuff, I think it's a lot nicer. And that's kind of one of the things, a lot of projects kind of go through an ugly stage and you just keep adding layers until it's like what you want it to be. I might add some gold paint around the edges. I might do a little bit more of gold splatter, but I'm gonna let that dry. And while I'm letting that dry, we can move into sewing this together. And what I want from this, these are all, the signatures are ready to go in. And that's going to be in a different video from the other day. What I kind of want to do is I want to line these filter papers up, I think, so that they're all in the same place, and that's just kind of a thing I'm gonna try and do right now, is make sure that everything's aligned where I want it to be. And that is cool. These are just big circles. They're paper, they came like this. And then I'm going to try, now that everything's where I want it to be, I'm going to paper clip these at the top and the bottom, and hopefully that's not going to get in my way. Trying to find the middle. I think this is the middle, honestly, of this. Maybe not. Have to be 2 pages together. No, it was all the way through. How's the best way to find the middle? We don't know. Oh, okay, we found it. Don't worry. It all happens eventually. Kind of want to keep that onto the filter paper is what I'm trying to do here, so that that will stay where we want it. These are slightly directional. So I'm going to put a paper clip on each one of these 3 signatures before I go poking any holes. Okay. The only thing is like in the middle there is like way out of there on this particular one. Okay, there's that. And here is that. There's a little bit of fussing around to get this all aligned and get this to work. So now is what we're going to do is I'm going to get my awl. I found it. Don't worry, guys. It was right where I put it. Didn't have to search for that, which obviously makes me happier than it should. So I'm just going to eyeball this first one, and what I'm doing is open this up, poke it right into that center crease, and then I like to fold it over, back over with the awl right in this middle, and I'm going to poke through. And the reason why I like to fold this back down nice is so that when I poke through to the outside of this signature, it's going to be right in the center of this crease, and that kind of helps you to get it. Otherwise, sometimes I come out and I'm like over here, and that is not what I want. So now here, I'm going to go about 1 inch from the top and the bottom, and I'm not going to measure this. You can if you want to, but I'm just going to eyeball that about 1 inch in, and then about 1 inch from the bottom. And this first one doesn't really matter, but you want to have the 3 holes, one at the top, one at the bottom, and one right in the middle. And I don't like to measure it. I like to just go for it. The only thing then is I do want to mark this as the top. I'm going to mark all 3 of these as the top, and I'm just going to put an extra little piece of like paper underneath this paper clip, and that's going to indicate that that's the top. You could just, you know, put a little arrow with pencil mark over here, whatever you want to do. That's just going to help when we align these, that they're all going to align in the same direction, and the holes will hopefully be in the same place on each of these. And that's what I'm going for, is I want to align these holes so they're all evenly spaced, so it's nice and neat when we put them into our book. So I'm going to align this second signature, the first signature inside the second signature, and I'm going to use those holes that I've already poked as a guideline so they go into the same place on each signature. And so I'm just going to go quickly through and do all 3 of these signatures, and you can do 5, you can do 7 signatures, depending on, of course, how wide the spine of your book is going to be what this dictates that. And again, I'm just going through, I'm trying to get this so that the holes are in the same place. You could stagger them for each one, and that, especially if you're doing a spine that shows, could be really cool, and it could have like a pattern on where your pamphlet stitch is sewn in. But we're going to do these evenly, so it'll be a nice uniform look. And this isn't going to really matter so much on this because we're doing the hidden spine. Okay, so we've got those. Now we need to find where we have put our hidden spine, which you have seen that I have out here. It's right underneath the ruler, of course it is. Oh dear, we got something on there. Probably some of that varnish. That's okay. I did glob something on there. You know what? I'm not going to worry about it. So I'm going to line this up. This lines actually really nicely with this, and what I want to do is I need to poke a hole for each one of these signatures. So I'll put one in the middle, and then one on this edge, and then one on this side, and that's going to be great. But I need them to line up. So I'm going to mark where the first one goes, and then I think I can just really eyeball the other 2 pretty easily. You want it to be, you're going to poke a hole, you don't want to poke a hole through the edge, so you want to be in far enough that you're not going to, that this is going to be sturdy enough to hold this once we sew it in. I don't see my pencil right offhand. I think I actually know where it's at. Well, I'll be good and mark this with a pencil so you can see. And I'm fairly close to the edge here. Not too close though. That is right there. Okay. So I'm just going to poke a guide hole. And then you can't probably see the pencil, but I can. And that will make sure that's going to line like that. Great. And then I'm going to go over, I'm trying to hit this in the middle. And even with this. So I'm going to eyeball this and I'm going to say that's the middle. And then one more that's about the same distance as this. You could measure this all out. I'm not going to today. I'm just going to do it this way and hope that it all comes out. It should. I guess what you could do is line it up on this line. So now you're just poking there and you're going to poke one there. And I made these just as guide holes. Now I'm going to go back and poke with making sure, make these holes bigger just so it's easier to get my needle through there. This is actually a little bit easier oops, I bent that. Hopefully that's not going to be a problem for us. I'm poking these holes a little bit bigger. This might be a little bit harder in some ways and a little bit more difficult in some ways than if we were doing this with our cover. And the reason why is because we have less material here to worry about. And you would do this the same way if you had the whole cover. It's just the front and the back page kind of gets in the way a little bit and it makes it a little bit more difficult to see what you're doing. But this should be fine. Great. We are cruising along here. Ooh, that's a pretty purple. Now you want to find some thread. I'm going to use this. This won't show on the outside of your book, and sometimes I choose something that's going to coordinate with the cover a little bit better, but this isn't going to show. This is all going to be inside the book. You're going to see it in the middle of these signatures, but that's about it. And this is binder's thread, and this is actually some binder's thread that I bought, and this would be very similar to, this is actually exactly what they use for binding books. And this is a very sturdy thread for this. It won't break very easily. You can put a lot of stress onto this. So the measure for this is you're just going to go 1, 2, 3. Whoops, 3. And that's going to let you know where you want to cut this. So you know how much you want. We can use my sewing scissors that are over here to cut this. Since this is thread, that'll be a thing. I always lose my needle. You can get, usually I just like to have some needles that have a big eye for sewing this. And generally you want to get something that has a blunt end. This one's a little bit sharper than necessary. It's really nice if you get a nice blunt needle, but it doesn't really matter. Anything you can use. This one's shorter than the one I used last time. That's all okay. Hopefully that's enough. Should be, unless I didn't measure my 3 right. But if you do it 3 lengths of your book that you're binding, that will always give you enough for doing a pamphlet stitch. And it'll leave you room to tie this off at the end. So I'm going to do the back one first. And these signatures should all be the same, so it doesn't matter which order we go in. You can grab any of them. And we're going to go start on the inside of our signature and just go through. And you want to leave a couple inches here and try not to pull that through when we go through. And we're going to go through our hidden spine. And I like to start at the back. It's a little bit easier that way. Okay, and so this could be your whole cover and you're sewing onto your cover, but today we just have this one little piece to worry about. So it's a little bit easier because you can see exactly what you're doing and you're not working outside of that cover. All right, so you go through the middle, from the inside to the outside of your spine, and then you go up to the top hole and you go through that and you go back in through all of your pages back into the middle, and then I like to put that over there so it's kind of out of the way there, and then you go all the way from the top to the bottom of your signature, and you're going to go back out through your hole that you've already poked and back through your spine, and you're going to pull that through there. All right, now we're going to go back to the middle, and we're already through the middle, right? And we're going to go back in through the spine, back through the hole in the middle, and this is a lot easier, guys. When you can see what you're doing here and you don't have that cover getting in your way, it's so much easier. Okay, so now we've come back through here, and okay, so that's that. And now we just want to make sure that is basically all of this. And now I'm just going to pull these, and I'm going to even these out a little bit and just make sure everything is tight before we tie a knot in this to hold it all together. What is this? I don't even know where that came from. Okay, get rid of that. Woo. Okay, so I want to make sure that these strings are pulled tight and that bottom one is not. So we ought to be able to just pull this taut, and it's pretty okay. And I just make sure that there's no loosey-gooseys. Okay, and then we're just going to tie a square knot right here. Right over left, left over right, tie a knot that won't come out. We can leave these, we can trim these off. I'll just trim these off really quick. This is also another good time to make sure if you mess this up, you can take this out and do it again. I think that that's fine. It's not the super tightest, but it's definitely secured there. All right, so that is our first signature, and it is there. I cut these to be the same when this is closed, and this is a little bit crazy, and I did not go back and make sure that this was where I wanted it. And I think I probably just knocked it down, and that's okay. It's where I want it now. So that's the first one, and is sewn on. So now we're going to continue with the other two, right? Fantastic, fantastic. Good job. Okay. So we need another thread, and see if we can get enough off of here. One, two, three. That will be more than enough for that. I'm going to put that there, and then I'm going to measure the last one. 1, 2, 3. And this is how. That way we can get rid of this thread and put it aside so it's not in our way while we leave all these scraps in our way. All right. Great. Here's this. Okay. Second signature, top at the top. Okay. Open it up, go through the middle. There it is. Through the middle of the spine. Leave an inch in the middle there. I usually use about, I think that's about 2.5, 3 inches. Come back up to the top, through the spine, through our hole, and see this one we didn't get right on the spine. right in the middle. So it's going to be just a little bit off, at least part of the way. And it's making it hard for me to find it through all of those pages and find my way back. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I mess things up. This got messed up. I didn't even look at it until now. Okay. I think that's going through. Aha! We got it. And I didn't even poke myself. Okay. Be careful with your needle. Don't want to draw blood doing this. Not that that's ever happened. Okay. So we're just going to open this up. And we can kind of tighten that maybe at this point. There you go. Okay, all the way from the top now. Top hole down into the bottom hole. Okay? All right. Okay, all the way through. We're through the signature. We're into the spine. Bottom hole sewn up. Okay. This is always, I think, the trickiest part, is where we're going through the middle where we've already sewn, trying not to hit like right through the middle. Don't want to sew through that thread because then that kind of makes it a knot and we can't tighten things and adjust them. So I usually like to, this has gotten really loose on the outside of here, so I like to tighten that up. Okay, and hold it. I like to pull that inside thread a little bit here while I'm trying to go through here. And in through the middle, and then put this where on the opposite side that our other end is on, so that this middle piece is between our two threads, one on each side, and we can pull the needle off at this point because we are done sewing. And now we just kind of want to, like, you can pull this and kind of even these two up. It might make it a little bit easier to tie your knot if you have a little bit extra. Make sure that these are tight, and they are. And right over left, and then go the other way, left over right. Getting little bits and bobs of like this acrylic paint peeling off my hands. I'm also covered in glue, so it's getting little crumbs in my book as I go along. And I'm going to cut that off. You could cut this off shorter. You could put a little daub of glue maybe down on there and let it dry if you wanted, if you're really worried about this, but these knots should not come out. Check and make sure everything's tight and secure, and that looks good to me. Also, this is going to get a fair amount of glue on this when it goes down in the book, so that'll help hold everything in place for this book. Since we're doing the hidden spine, and now we line up the last one, and it should line up with its sister signatures just fine. And okay, thread the needle. It's where it all starts. We already cut. Oh, gotta find the one we cut. All right, this is the nice long one. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to like whack you in the face there. The dangers of overhead filming. Should do this in 3D, right? You could have a little jump scare as I'm sewing madly. Okay, start in the middle, just like the other ones, just repeating the same thing. Poke it through the spine. This is where it's a little more challenging because you don't have as much material, so everything's kind of getting a little heavier on the bottom, a little less easy to move around. This is not bad at all. I think this is like the most difficult part of making the journals. Requires the most skill, and it is not bad at all, folks. You can do this. It's also, I think, the thing that takes the most like dedicated tools, because you're going to have thread, you're going to have a needle, an awl or a pokey tool, you can use a needle and maybe a thimble. I think you can get some pretty inexpensive bookbinding kits that come with the little awl, and that's just where I got mine, and they cost like under $10. I want to say I got mine for. Okay, so we're in through the spine, back into the middle top of here, come all the way down. I always put this like towards the back of the book to hold it in place. And I'm caught in my paper clip, and that would be bad because then things aren't going to get tightened up here. Poke it through this bottom hole and then straight back down through the spine. There you go. We're in the spine. We're on the outside of the spine. We're coming back up to the middle. Again, I like to pull this out of the way. At this point, I might make this a little bit longer. Someday I might learn and just leave a little bit more out there because, like I said, we have obviously plenty. You've seen where we had plenty of tail left on both ends. Okay, back in through the middle, pull this out of the way so that we can find our way. Finding our way all the way back into the center. You can do this. It is a little bit harder. I don't have as much flexibility as I did on the first one because of this spine is holding everything, all our other signatures in place now. So it is a little bit more difficult to find that hole maybe. Maybe this is just the difficult one. There you go. There you go. Got it, got it, got it. And we're in. Pull it through. I'm making sure right now that I am on the other side of this center string from the, so I have one end on one side and one end on the other side. So I can tie that into my knot and it will hold that in place. And I just kind of like to pull these back and forth a little bit to make sure that everything's tight, and it always pays to check and make sure that there's not any loops or anything, or there's not like a pencil or something stuck on the back of here. And then just tie your square knot and then blow your paint crumbs out of there. I'm sure you won't have paint crumbs in yours. I think that's just kind of a me problem because I've been finger painting. Okay, there we go. And that is that. We can take these off. We don't need these two. Although, I mean, how cool is that? I really like that with that. Okay. I'm gonna glue some things in here before we go. So that's the center. I always have a big gap there. Maybe someday I'll get my signatures closer together, but that's okay. That's just kind of, I think, the nature of the journal. Oh, I am really trying to learn to put my things back. And there is a little container there for that. Yeah. There you go. I didn't get that one really quite as straight, apparently, as the others. So the circle is kind of a little wonkety. Do you see that? I think it still looks cool. These will be fun things to decorate. They're a little bit different, a little bit of interest. You could have definitely put these inside there too, so it'd just be like a half circle. But here we get like a whole circle. It's lined up pretty well. It does have this bit in the middle. Could put something down in there. Like these a lot. I like these signatures with these like interesting papers. And these kind of work as just kind of to break this up and give it kind of a half page, and it makes it feel kind of almost like a lining because this is such a different paper and it's got such a different feel. There you go. That is our signatures, and we almost have a book. We almost have a book. Let's go grab our cover so we can get this done. Sometimes you should measure. Anyway, and then you can get those right and exactly where you want them to be. So our cover is, that looks still a little wet. Look at this. It just added so much, like, to add that paint. Really kind of helped here. Since this is still slightly wet, let's put that needle away in there. Let's try this binding one more time. So we'll add the binding. We will see what that's going to look like. And then the cover, which will look like this. It's not going to have any binding coming through. And then this, and it just looks really cool with that. And it looks a little worn and it looks a little aged. And it looks a little fun. I like it. I like it a lot. It'll be fun once this gets wrapped around. And guys, this feels really cool with that with this Liquitex gloss medium and varnish. It's smooth and it's very fun to touch. So hopefully you guys like this. This is still kind of wet. There is some wet paint. And I do want to glue this back down. And I might, instead of... What do I use? Did I use the glue stick? The glue stick that's not sticking? Well, drat. Let's try this. Let's see if we can get that stuck down. So that... This, I don't want this to be peeling up. So I'm going to put a little liquid glue on here. A smudging. See if I can get it to stick. It's a lot of glue already down on there. That's dried. So hopefully, maybe I should have covered something over the whole part of this. Maybe I still should. Okay, I am going to pull out my bookbinding glue. I think that's going to stick now. I am going to pull out my bookbinding glue, just because it's made for doing things like this, and I want this to stick down. So basically, I'm going to coat this in glue, and I'm going to apply it here. And I might find some clamps to do that so that that stays held in place until it is dry. Just until, so that it won't be going anywhere. This is cool. Junky Junk Journals. Okay. So cool. That is still really wet right there. I should get out the paint gun. Where would I have put the glue? It was out here yesterday, and now, of course, it has traveled away. Let's put away some of our things and see if we can find that. Of course, that is. Neutral pH adhesive. This is actual honest to goodness glue that bookbinders use. Get rid of all of our other mediums, put them away. So we have space to do this. I usually apply this with a brush. I actually have this, which I was using for something the other day, so I'm probably going to use this as a smearing tool, and then I'm just going to throw that away. So I just want to put a fair amount of this on here, and some of it's going to absorb back into your sponge or brush or whatever you're using. I frequently use like a sponge brush to apply the glue like this. Works really well. Today I don't have the brush, I just have the sponge. So you just want to get a heavy application. You can wait for this to dry ever so slightly until it's tacky. Or be super impatient like I'm gonna be. Just stick it down there. Alright. You don't wait too long anyway. Let's get that so it doesn't smoosh out. Okay. I'll put that right in the trash. Okay. Now I just want to kind of line this up right where I want it in the middle up here. I'm going to turn this so I can actually see the top and the bottom at the same time, so I can get a good gauge on whether or not I have it placed in the center of here. It's all fun and games until you're actually trying to find the center, right? Okay. This should tack this down very nicely. And I'm just going back in between those signatures and kind of pushing down on this to make sure that it's getting a good, coming in contact with this book. In every place that I can possibly get it to stick down, right? Because this is gonna hold our book together. This is it. There you go. It's holding. It's holding. Okay. I might try and put just some clips in there until that's dry. And I saw some yesterday. These are just little tiny ones. Not super big, but I think it'll make me feel better anyway. But like I said, I mean, this is sticking down here, so let's just put these clips in here for the time being while this dries to hold this hidden spine in place. Great. Great, great. In it goes. Okay. That'll hold that. And I am going to call this pretty much done. So I am going to attach my ties, if I can figure out how to get them through here now. By making a bigger hole, which is going to be okay because that's going to kind of cover this up. We're fairly successful with like stuffing this through with this last time. Patience is a virtue, and that is what right? We're practicing here today. Patience is a virtue. You can kind of get that almost through there. You might have to get really creative on a way to do this. I mean, these are very small little holes. It's coming through just ever so barely. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Okay. We got that. And so I'm just going to dye one overhand knot like that. And that is going to hold that because it is a small hole. And it's going to give us this kind of cool little piece of sari silk on the cover, which I think is fantastic. And the back cover, just one more time, we can do it. Just do it on the front and you can wrap it around and tuck it in. Okay. I think this one's going to go through easier. Watch this. We aren't even going to have to do all that mucking around. So today we have made a hidden spine junk journal with a sari silk tie. We got to play around with some paint. And some of our better fun and exciting art mediums. To finish this, you can do all of this with a glue stick, honestly, if that's all you have. But, you know, use what you got. That is what it's all about. This is going to be a nice little sized book. It's got some interesting pages on the inside. And it's all ready to fill with, you know, treasures from your days. And I think it looks really good and it feels great. I wish you guys could feel this. And you'll be able to open this up and you can wrap this around here while you're working in it, I suppose. It's got a tie closure. It's got some really interesting pages throughout. It's got some like book pages in here. And it's all ready to decorate and to write in and to write about your days and to, you know, put some little pictures in there. Anything you want to do, just so much fun. It's already got so much interest. It's going to be great. I might go back and put some envelopes or something in here just to have some pockets in there. It's not too full yet, so it's got a lot of potential to just be filled and bulked up, and then you're going to have this tie to help you tie this shut when you're done. I am super excited. And then this one will wrap around this way, and then you can tie a bow as promised. Beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm super happy. I love this. It's just great book. Also, its brother, also a very similar book, but also very different. They look very different. Very beautiful books. This one's got like lots of colorful pages on the inside. I already put some like a pocket here, a different pocket here. Just fun and great journals. Takes about a day to make, really, a couple hours, and you're done. And you can do a spine on the outside, same way that we did this. You just don't need that part. You poke right straight through the spine and go straight into this part of the spine. To do that, that's great. I am so glad that you were here today with me to finish this journal. I had so much fun making this, and I am super thrilled with it. And I hope that you will join me next time. If you want to find me again, it's easy. If you subscribe, like this video. If you like what you see and you want to see more of it, like, subscribe, share it with a friend. And I will see you soon at Scrapcraft and Stitchery. This is Christina, and I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful day.